And as we go live, we get to see Blank doing his final touches as he preps to look good for the show.
Hi.
And that's how apparently we're starting things out today. Greetings, everybody. It is a Tuesday, which means it's the Campfire here on the MMOBuff show, studio, thingy-mabobby, whatever we want to call ourselves, network. Yay. And I am joined by my typical hostesses with the mostesses and a very special guest. And I believe this is her third time on the show. Oh boy, are we making use. That's great. But yes, so let's start off by saying hello to the hostesses with the mostesses with this. I'm going to have to say with the awesome hairstyles today. We have Screenager.
Well,
We have Blank Space, who was, before he started messing with his hair, looking very much so greased lightning. It was great.
Hello, folks. How's everyone doing today?
And then, of course, our very special guest, Tasha Darke.
Hello, folks.
And you get to remind everybody from where you're from.
Oh yeah. Oh God, where am I not from? I run a guild for the last 8 years called Mystic Spiral. In the last 2 or 3 years, we've been really involved in charity events, and in March, with these lovely people here, we managed to raise over $6,000 for Child's Play in an event called Healing Over Time, and that has pretty much become what I'm doing now, is making that an actual proper thing. So that's what I'm doing at the moment.
Proper
thing.
Yes. And before we get into things too much, I want to give a huge thank you to our newest moderator, Nantari, who is pretty much going to be the big mod for our shows on the Campfire. It is lovely to have people getting involved and interested in the things that we are doing. Also, a big hello to Robots Hates Me and Memory Dump, Avid Guru. It is really lovely to see you, and everybody else who is watching as well. Remember, if you have questions and stuff, they will pop up and we'll be able to go, ooh, you're asking something. Or, hey, you're making a comment and you want us to actually make note of them. So, since we're not going to grill Tasha, because, my goodness, we've had you on enough, we really don't need to sit there and grill you repeatedly, because that's just kind of wrong. Instead, what I'm going to do is throw you an interesting question.
Okay,
if you
go
could
on.
only play one game for the rest of your life, no matter what technological advances came, let's just say that somehow you got cursed by an evil genie in a bottle. Let's just go there. What game would you play, and why?
It would have to be one of the Civilization games. I am a massive fan of Civilization. Which one would be my favorite? To be honest, I'm kind of enjoying 5 at the moment with the new add-ons that have come on. The reason why, I've been playing Civilizations since I was 12, I think, and it's one of those games that you can play it again and again and again and again, and it is never the same because of map random, and obviously you're playing as different personalities and all the rest of it. The only thing that's certain is that Gandhi is a bastard. I'm really looking forward to the space version of Civ that's coming out later on this year. Really excited for it. So yeah.
Oh, yes. And what about you, Screen? If you could only play one game for the rest of your life, what game would it be?
actually taking it right back, I'd probably say the one game that I think I could play for any reasonable length of time without going completely nuts, I think Elite. I mean, I know it's taking it very far back, but honestly, I never ever felt like I got enough time with that game before I moved on.
Interesting. Blank?
Oh, well, this is, classic, but it's easy. It'd be Breakout for Atari. Sit around. Boop, 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 boop. If you gotta play something,
Wow,
might as well be
he had
something
to-
simple.
He was like,
easy.
"Screen's gone back in the day. I'm gonna have to go harder. I'm more hardcore."
Dude, well, I was like, what could I play? And it's like nothing that like has like any sort of real. And I don't like Tetris is. So I was like, what else is something that you can just play to play? And I'm like, Breakout, dude. You can just sit around, just boop 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 all day. So how about you, Josie? Since you're giving out all these questions off the document, I guess today.
Well,
what game would you play forever if you had to?
This is basically my intro question for when we're not grilling somebody. I'll have a random question that I'll toss out to people. And I'd have to say I'm literally torn between 2. And I'm trying to make a decision, and it's probably going to kill me to have to make one. I'm trying to decide whether I want it to be Borderlands or Civ. because I'd want there's just something absolutely comedic about constantly replaying a game and getting better and better and better, and both of those allow that option of replayability with humor in some cases. And I agree with you. Gandhi can be a little bit of a pain in the rear end in Civ.
Just a little bit. Yes,
I'll tell you what
so.
though, when I first started playing it and I played as Gandhi, I basically ruled the world. It was wonderful.
It took me a long while to work out that the different civs have different bonuses and all the different advantages and how you play the game with all the different civs. Do you know what? I don't think I've actually played as Gandhi as yet. I kind of start at the top of the list and keep working my way down, and then by the time I get about halfway down, they've bought a new expansion with a whole new load of civilizations. So I start from the top and work my way down again.
Poor Tasha. Right.
The trouble with Civs is it takes you like 24 hours worth of playing time to actually play one game.
It depends on a lot of factors. But yes, there's so much inside a game that keeps you entertained. What I find interesting though is most of us picked games that were either small community-based games that only one person can play with you, or maybe 4, or maybe 8 even. Not like massive MMOs. We didn't pick an MMO. I find that really interesting. Go figure. Okay, so moving into today's show. Today's show is called Carrying the Weight. Now, this stems from a little bit of what we were discussing in our previous show. For those of you who did not watch last week's episode, we were talking about surviving post-launch in a game with your community. And this week, we move into something that we kind of made mention of. Screen, would you like to start us off?
Sure. We went last week very much into our issues that you see post-launch. Something that's very close to the heart of post-launch is your players and how you manage them within a community. Doesn't necessarily mean that every community has to manage players very heavily, but there's always some sort of expectation on players. When you want to do stuff as a group, there's always going to be some people that are going to be better at the game than others. But within a guild group, you obviously want to meet those goals. And what happens when people within that guild mentality aren't meeting the expectations required of them to be able to meet those goals? Be it playing nice, giving out enough DPS, giving out enough heals, understanding their class. What do you do when people don't meet those goals? And that's pretty much what we're going to be talking about this week on Campfire.
Right. Yes, that pretty much sums up what we're going to be talking about. So we'll start off with, because I'm going to be good and actually follow some of the show notes today. Some, not all. I like to keep my hosts on their toes. We're going to start off with not everybody who starts in the game or even in a community understands what is required of them in a game. Now, we're not talking about what's required in the community, because a community may have a goal of we expect you to be on a voice comm, or we expect you to log in 4 weeks or 4 times a week or something like that. That's a community type thing. I want to focus on the actual mechanics, the gameplay. So each one of us at one time or another was a beginner MMO player. Do you remember what that was like? Oh, Blank's never been beginner. Blank has been there since before time. In fact, Blank can beat up Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris is scary. Your beard does. Wonderful. But yes, I want to talk about, we've all started somewhere. And in a community, if someone comes out and just says, okay, I want to be, we'll say, a tank. And I have never tanked before, but I really want to learn how to do it. And your community allows this. So you're not that end rating game kind of guild where you're like, you must know your rotation and the rotation of 7 other people. That's not what we're looking at here. This is just one of those communities that says, we'll happily help and teach you.
Shall we call it an average guild?
An average
guild. Average.
Yeah, guild average. Team average.
You are guild average.
Team average. Yes. So we're going to talk about that. And by talking about it, we're going to go to blank space. And I'm going to say, let us say that you are in a team average guild. I'm not saying that the Viking Nation is such a thing, but let's just say that you're in team average guild. And someone says they want to learn. What tools do you think should be offered to somebody inside your community to help them grow as a player?
First sort of tools we always talk about are mechanical ones first. So the difference between an old school crappy keyboard and a new one is milliseconds. Well, if you take the milliseconds from your keyboard and your mouse and your monitor and your internet and your graphics card, you add them all up, we're talking about everywhere from 1 to 3 or 4 seconds in delay, depending on how bad their stuff is. So the first place I always start is, what are you using for a keyboard? Do you have a wired or wireless mouse? What's your refresh rate on your monitor? What's your graphics card? Sit down and ask them about their stuff, and potentially, if they have the funds, be able to upgrade certain things, especially internet, if possible, and graphics card, memory, and CPU. That's going to help people just from the start. The next step is working on reflexes, timing, acquisition of targets, and execution, which is a personal thing that's no longer mechanical. Would you like to talk about one specifically, or just about the process more?
What do you think? Just, we want to make certain that what we're doing is we're leaving tools for people to use, because I think people tend to forget that when you bring somebody in, not only are they learning about the culture, they're learning about the game as well and how a team works together, because one tank is going to tank vastly different than another. One healer is going to heal different than another. There are styles to play.
Okay. Well, okay, so start with mechanic, very broad. We'll bring it into personally, start talking to people about their keybinds. You're talking to them about, how they play. Do they need colorblind, stuff like that. And then you really dig into each game. Each game is different. I'm going to stay away from those other two because they're a little bit more broader, and bring it into the game. You start looking at their understanding of the game. Do you understand what these things mean on your UI? Do you need an add-on that helps you with that?
Right. Can I interject and ask how you measure as a guild lead? How do you measure how people understand the game? What tools do you use? How do you approach that?
The best one is going to be by the feedback that you get from both your leaders and by actual experience. That's the best way.
So how about their interview process when you're recruiting people? Because that's my biggest. That's my biggest straight up flag for telling me how much someone knows about the game is their interview process.
Yeah. Oh, as we said before, the interview process, especially tiered ones like I enjoy setting up for organizations, is they allow you to see not only the skills that they have, their hardware that we've talked about, but also when you get people into a game, it's not just about. Everybody has their skill cap that they're going to be at their best, no matter what, is how they're going to perform. Getting people to that point is sometimes very difficult, but making sure that they have the ability to deal with situations that are stressful or difficult, or are able to learn from their mistakes, are the qualities you want to look for from people. Carrying people is a lot easier when they're willing to accept criticism, nasty or not, and learn from it and grow from it. And I say nasty or not, and I see your face. Some guilds, you're going to get nasty, do this, don't be stupid, fix it. And other people are going to be like, okay, this is what you did wrong. They're going to break down Barney style for you. Then the next step is her, and then the next step is her, and then we all going to hug it out. Like, it all depends what kind of organization you got, but...
No, I understand what you're saying, and honestly, I'm gonna start making more faces like that if I get more like accents from you like that. Because honestly, that's just it's just great. Yeah, go ahead. You can finish your statement. I'll let you.
No, once you get past the hardware and the other things, it really comes down to everybody's personal abilities, and you can teach people if they're willing. If they're not willing, if they're stuck in their ways, you can't teach them. If they're willing to learn, it then comes down to how quickly do they understand what they made a mistake in and fix it. And temperament helps a lot too. If you get somebody who's like, I'm the best at this, blah 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 blah, but like they stand in fire, well then it's kind of a pain. You have to work on your ways, and I see this here on developing players. And each organization is going to pick what works best for them. So I might toss this to anybody else about there are lots of different ways to develop players. I always develop them by doing things like speed runs or challenges where you put some sort of cool reward in front of people and you say, all right, first to get this done, get something really cool. Or even more than that, especially in hardcore organizations, it's we've got 50 people, 40 people are necessary for this deal. The people who do this the quickest get in to the raid, group one. The other people sit on the bench.
Interesting way to handle it. And Robot Sates Me points out, I think an important thing is patience, because people's learning curve is different than others. Now, we've heard some of the tools from Blank Space. Tasha, in your experience, what do you believe a guild leader or someone in a quote-unquote, and I always say quote-unquote position of power, because I don't believe officers and things are really the power structure of a guild. I still believe it's the members themselves that make it, but it's a debate for another show. So, what do you think the guild leader or the officers should have in their toolkits to help somebody? Because it's not a one-way street. It's not just, I'm going to help Bob. Bob needs help. Let us help him. Obviously, patience is something that should be in the arsenal, right?
Patience is definitely important. I'd say that that the robot's absolutely correct. People learn at different paces, and I think it's really important to understand what people aren't understanding. I think as long as people have approached a guild with a mindset of, they're expecting a certain amount of DPS, what have you, and understanding that they're expected to meet that. If they find out they're not, generally they are quite positive about wanting to raise their game, essentially. I think the why you do things a certain way, why you stand there, why you spec this way is incredibly important to kind of making sure that people do follow it. Otherwise, there's a tendency to go with, well, I've always done it this way. Why should I go and spend all these resources to do it a different way without knowing what the benefit of it is? I think that's really important, and also having contacts as well. It's unrealistic as a leader to think that you know everything about a game. It'd be a great position to be in, but it's unrealistic. Stuff changes all the time. You've only got to be knocked out for like a couple of weeks. It's a new patch and you're out of the game. So it's knowing people who are specialists, that this is their thing. They really love complete min-maxing, and kind of going to them and saying, right, I need you guys to be in charge of making sure that everyone knows what gear they should be running. Give them the responsibility for it, and then it's up to them to make sure that they don't let everyone else down. It leaves you free to do other stuff, and it gives them responsibility and power within the guild, and respect as well.
So in a way, you want to put people who enjoy that in the right positions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So patience, enjoyment of the whole min-max game is another way to do it. What about you, Screen? What other
I think
tools
going off of what's already been said, just to add to that, clarity is something that kind of builds on what's already been put down. A good example right now is that I know we lean on WildStar a lot, but when we're talking about post-launch, it's just gone live, and a lot of us have guilds in that. We are right now, our 2-week launch period. We're doing a big cut. As of tonight, literally tonight, I'm doing a cut of people that either haven't made the grade, haven't made the leveling process, and clarity is key in that, because we provided support structure. We've given these sort of support structures to people. We've had people on TeamSpeak. We've identified the people that are good carriers. We've had officers in place. We've pointed out guides. We've encouraged people to be in the beta, to pick the class in advance, to allow them to understand what they're playing and ensure that people know what they're doing right from the outset, and identify any weaknesses and try and work on those. But that required people to come online and to be level 35 by week 2. Now for WildStar, that's a really easy leveling goal. So all that really proved was that someone wanted to come online and be in the guild, essentially. And we were very clear about that. We were clear about that since before launch, through interviews, through multiple guilds, through multiple guild meetings, and we have been 100% clear about that if you didn't meet it by now and you didn't come and speak to someone before the 2 weeks were up, there were no questions, there were no debates, you were gone, and that was it. And it's not, but clarity has been key in pushing that. And clarity of communication is absolutely key when you put any sort of expectation on a member. Obviously, like has already been said, you got your communication issues with going ahead and being able to target support and put the right people in place. But when you put those expectations down, you have to be 100% clear and know people know that they are expected to do that. It means that you can follow through correctly.
Which I completely agree.
Are you all right, Blank?
Blank had to take care of something really quick. I want to say hello to you, Philip. You've joined us on the Campfire. We're discussing what it takes to offer support in a community to somebody who may not understand how to play a game, or, as some people have been saying, how to deal with the baddies. I don't necessarily think it's always about the baddies, but we've been looking at support tools that guild communities themselves can offer and have internally in order to offer support for new members or players who want to try to strive to be their best. Now, there's one thing I want to throw in that you guys haven't thrown in yet, because we've each had a bit from each of you. In my case, not only does there need to be the clarity that has been spoken about, not only does there need to be the patient and the right people in the right positions, as Tasha has spoken about, and not only does there need to be a very clear-cut understanding of what is expected, as Blank has been pointing out, there needs to be a line in the sand. I think this is one of the things, you can have an expectation for people. And if you have, like, for you in Screenager, you're talking about having a leveling, sort of, this is where we need you to be at this particular point in time. This is great. Now I'm going to move it into the, we're doing content as a guild. We're doing things together. We're either knocking down bosses or we're doing PvP together, etc. And you have reached a point where the same person has repeatedly had trouble, though they are trying really hard. I mean, you're used to sitting on TeamSpeak, Vent, Mumble, Skype, whatever you use for voice comms, Raid Call even, listening to them almost crying because they're like, I don't get what's wrong. And I have been doing everything you've said. This is like the hardest thing in the world for me. Yet there has to be a line, because there is a point in time where someone becomes the sole focus of the officer's corps that everyone else gets neglected. And I'd like to ask you guys what you think that line should be.
Personally, for me, because I run a very different guild to these guys, Mist is very much a socially orientated guild. We don't have any like PvE or PvP requirements at all. It's all about people. It's all about, having fun together. My line in the sand is when people start causing trouble for other people, and when they start undoing the work of others. Those are my 2 points in the sand where I go, sorry, that's it, you're out. We're very lax in terms of activity, skill level, all that kind of stuff. We have some guys who are really, really fantastic, and other people who just want to log on and play for an hour a week. And that's fine, but for me, it's like are you respecting everyone else in the guild? Do you respect the people who are putting in the hours to make it available for you to be here? And if you can't do that, sorry, I'm not interested in helping you anymore.
Fair enough. I see a smile from the awesome screen, so I'm not going to turn to screen.
I was actually talking to the chat while you were filling that in.
You were ignoring
to be honest,
our guest?
I'm not ignoring our guest. I'm just responding to our chat. Got to have interactive hosts here.
I'll save you. I got you, dude. I got you, bro. Hit me right here. Boom. So that line is what I called the the dad line. So if you have children, you'll understand this. If you don't, well then you might have this with buddies too. You get to that point where you're like, yo, dude, do this. Hey man, do this. And then there's that point, that dad point, where you go from like this nice voice to being like, all right, you're messing it up. Whenever you get to that point with somebody in a guild, that's when it's time to start considering cutting them or moving them. And in the military, I can't say that, this is really not nice. There is a term I will use, recycling, where if somebody, let's say it's doing their marksmanship, you take them to the backfield and they sit there and they practice over and over and over. And that's literally what you would do in a situation like this, or I have in the past, where you take them from Group A and you're like, listen, you're not Group A material. Right now, you just like to stand in fire. It doesn't give you a buff. It's going to kill you. That red stuff is bad for you, and you can't seem to move out of it as much as possible or use a skill to not be in it. So what we're going to do is we're going to put you back in the Barney room, and we're going to let you practice at your level over and over until you get better. And then when you're no longer at the Barney level, we're going to take you back up to the big leagues. That's literally what it is. When they get to that point where you're just like, this is stupid. What are we doing? Like you said, Josie.
Well, see, that's
I
the
wait
thing.
to see the MMO that puts a Barney boss in for training.
Great.
Can
That's going to cause all kinds of issues. However, I throw out to you, you offered this, and I kind of like where you're coming from. The whole dad thing. You get the same thing with your friends where it's like, yeah, what you said is just funny. What you said is just funny. Okay, now you need to just shut up because you're pushing my buttons. However, that line is different for everybody. So, what's going to piss me off is going to be different than what pisses you off, Blink. We have different levels of tolerance when it comes to people's attitudes, perspectives, etc. Yes, there are some things we will never let someone cross line over, like being disrespectful. There are certain things we just don't tolerate. But there is a level of patience that is different.
Sure. All right.
I love how patronizing that started. Oh, sweetie.
Any of us here, let's say we're all in a group, right? And we've got one pug with us. And we go in, and we all adore each other, or at least that's how I love all you guys, right? And we go in, and Josie, your job in the second group is to stun stuff with Tasha. And I'm looking at my screen, like I do, right? I'm streaming it. I'm able to rewind it. And I'm sitting there, and I watch Tasha's go off, and yours don't. Let me do it the first time. Okay, cool. 30 minutes, 45 minutes into this, I'm sure Ed is going to be going, dude, what the bleep? And I'm going to be going like, sweetie, do you have this add-on? Yes. Are you watching it? Yes. Can you make it like bigger on your screen? Like if we get to the point where we're like an hour where you have all the tools and you literally are not hitting a button, we're probably going to be like, okay, I got to go. Like I got to go for a walk. Like there is that point, no matter who you are, no matter how, unless you've got this like godly amount of patience, where you get to the point where you're just like, you have all the tools. You literally have done this. Especially like if it's just phase 1 of a boss fight where there's nothing but the mechanics over and over. What is that saying? You can't fix stupid? Like that's literally where it's at.
Okay, now see that's where you're getting into another thing. I think some people we are about trying to help officers. We're about trying to help the community. We're about trying to help guild leaders, etc. But we have to stress that in the end, it is the personal individual responsibility of every player. And I think that's something that cannot be neglected in this topic. So, bang on for you for bringing it out, even though
I hate to say it that way.
No, but see, that's the thing. I see what you're saying because it does give the impression that someone is either you don't want to think of somebody as not being a responsible player. You'd rather think of them as someone who just can't be a responsible player because we want to think the best of people. We want to believe that people will be good because they can be good. But, sometimes you just get those people who just don't seem to get it. And it's a very frustrating experience. However, it makes me wonder, is that because we're teaching them wrong? I mean, I saw Nantari make a comment about how education is so unfair in so many places because everybody learns different. Some people are visual. Some people are, they need to read something to understand it. Some people just need to see it in action. Some people just need to be told and have a checklist, press 1, press 2, press 6, press 4, press 2, and, next to their monitor. Everyone learns differently.
Here's the thing.
Cool.
Sorry, Ed. This will be quick. It's the scaling part. If they're ready for a raid, they're ready for a raid. If they're not ready for a raid, take them into a gold level dungeon. And I'm using WildStar. You could use any other framework. It doesn't matter because they all have the same levels. It's the way games are developed. If they're not ready for a gold level dungeon, get them in for silver. To a regular dungeon. Bring them into a level 20 down level dungeon. Take them into the open world and have them stand there. Dodge. Interrupt. This one has 2 interrupt armor. Take it off. You teach them in a easier environment and build them up, because that's the best tool to do it. To take somebody into you take somebody who's having trouble getting out of, let's say, a Telegraph and WildStar in the open world. You don't put them in a dungeon. They're just going to smash their face in a keyboard and quit and rage. You keep them in the environments where they can learn without the pressure being too much. And that's, in general, the best way to do it.
That's actually not an entirely unfair point. I think what's interesting is how you manage players that aren't necessarily taking that responsibility to improve themselves to some extent. We've had players, for example, our WildStar Guild are still gelling. We've a lot of members from outside our community at the moment. Right now, we've got to focus on particular things that people need to learn. We have goals right now. My goals are really getting people to gel and communicate and understand how they've got to move in Battlegrounds right now. That's kind of my big goal right now, is getting a personality gel with the guild right now, and then we'll move on to things like particular builds as we hit our first month in. So we've got goals set for that, to things to focus on. And if people don't meet those, then what we found in other games is I've had players in other games they're the type of players that will blame everything in the game and the other players and the overpowered classes in other games but themselves. And no matter how much instruction they're given specifically as how to do something, you have to manage them accordingly. I say that and it sounds really bad, but when I say manage them accordingly, me turning around and going, understand how to dodge, go and read a guide, or you don't understand how this works. I've told you this a million times, and telling them didn't work. Another person of the same class running a PvE dungeon with them, going, you should probably change your build. This one works quite well. Here, have a look. And yeah, my armor is this. All of a sudden, week after, still not the greatest player in the world, but massive improvement, just because they found it easier to blame other things around them rather than introvert and look at themselves. And it took them sitting down with someone that they bear some sort of relationship with, i.e. they were the same class, rather than having it told on high from someone that was technically their officer / superior. And sometimes it doesn't just take you as the person in charge to fix everything. Sometimes you have to manage them slightly differently, and you have to bear that in mind. It's not just about people learning differently, but different people listen differently as well.
Now, see, that's the thing, and I want to throw a heads up. Robots has pointed out, depending upon whether you are the casual or the hardcore, because we have varying extremes in this group here. We have a very casual guild that's about just, the community through Tasha. We have the guilds that are about, roar, we will do our goals and objectives in PvP. You've got Screen's guild and a bit of Blank's guild. You've also got the PvE side of thing, which is my guild and Blank's guild as well. So we have a variety of different spectrums here. Now, I saw an interesting thing. Now, a lot of people may not know this, but Dr. Marshmallows, who was one of our hosts here on MMO Buff, is actually getting their doctorate in education and language and things like that. And I saw this lovely little thing brought out by Dr. Marshmallows about the paradigm, which I am hoping that Dr. Marshmallows will explain further. But I noticed, Tasha, that you picked up on it and you said that you agreed. I'd like you to point out what was said, and if you could, just elaborate a little on it, because I think it's well worth including in today's show for the YouTubers who might have missed the live show. Hi, YouTubers.
So Marshmallows said that, in my opinion, it comes down to accountability. Who is accountable for their learning and understanding, and who is accountable for the effect they are having? And I think that's really important. I think that, as a player, you have a responsibility to hold yourself accountable to your own actions, just as a human being, really. Having self-awareness of your impact on a group, I think that's important. But at the same time, you, as a leader, as an officer, you're trying to look out for this group of people. And if you've got one person who, try as they might, is just not, basically just being disregarding, everyone else, what have you, you just have to stand up and say, sorry, I have to be accountable for the rest of, everyone, and you are impacting on what they're doing. So I just thought that was a really good point.
I have another tool I wanted to throw out there, Josie. I'm really coming across as the elitist hardcore D-bag this week. I'm not really meaning to, but there's nothing wrong.
There's nothing wrong
either.
with being that way either, because one of the key things we're saying is if you have a goal and you're very clear as to what your goal is for a guild, then you have to have some kind of discipline in place for, like Ed is saying tonight, he's cutting people. There have to be certain expectations that people need to be aware of so that they can either shoot for it or choose not to, and the responsibility sits on the individual to try. But go ahead.
Quite no, anyone that's not 35, you got like 2 hours. Good luck.
I wanted to say we're giving tools. This is another tool. It doesn't work in education, so sorry, Dr. Marshmallows, but you can take your group of badasses and put one person who needs training in the group. And now what I mean by this is you take your best tank, your best healer, and 2 amazing DPS, right? And you take in this last person. It doesn't matter. Here's the best part. It doesn't matter what they do. They could stand and fire the whole time. What you're doing is you're bringing them in, and even if they're dead, they're watching you move succinctly, efficiently, effectively, to the point where most of these groups don't even need to communicate what they're doing because they know what they're supposed to do and they do it. You take somebody into that environment and you show them. And you show them, like let's say you're doing a phase 1 and you're doing it and there's no health rush. So you're literally doing the boss, moving around, healing yourself. These 4 players are moving, and this the 5th person is getting a chance to see this all happen. I've had good success with this because the 5th player sometimes is actually able to pick up what's most important. Sometimes things get lost in translation, where we were just doing Stormtown, first boss. And I literally had to yell, screamed on stream, like, it doesn't matter your damage. All you have to do is move, drop the thing, and don't die. This is what this phase is literally called. Drop lightning, don't die. And everyone laughed. And I'm like, no, seriously, that's what it's called. We ended up beating the boss with 3 people. Other people can barely do it with 5. But if you're able to teach that to these other people, that stop thinking that it's about your damage or how much you do and it's just about surviving and pushing forward, you might be okay. So get some geared up folks. Take one of your weaker members, put them into a group with a lot of people with big shoulders, and hopefully they learn by contact.
Okay, now I think this is a really good idea in time, especially for timing and stuff like this, for us to bring in our community scenario question. As a reminder, folks, if you have a scenario you want the team to tackle, and believe me, we're all for tackling even the most difficult issues. I have to tell you, when we had that particular question about how to handle when someone came out who was transgendered in the guild, it was an incredible amount of feedback we got on that. Don't be afraid to bring us your hardest questions, because we're honestly not afraid to answer them.
We like them hard. We like your hard questions. So send them on in.
Right. And on that note, I bring our campfire scenario question for today. And this was actually suggested to us by our new moderator, Nantari, which, by the way, thank you so very much. She has all kinds of things. She's like, well, what would you do in this situation? I'm like, tell you what, bring them to the campfire. Let us deal with it. So there's a guild member, and we're going to call this guild member Frank. Just for sake of saying this. You okay, Blank?
Can we call him the Snowflake, please? I'll tell you why, but can we call them the Snowflake, please?
Sure. We have a guild member, and he is named the Snowflake. Poor Blank. But he's not very good at the game. Snowflake's kind of bad, not from lack of trying, but Snowflake seems to have difficulties improving. The guild members, this particular guild member is a very nice person. Snowflake really wants to be a part of the guild activities, be it the PvE or PvP, and I think we're going to lose Blank to a heart attack. Would you still let Snowflake come along despite their lack of skill, even if it means that the team has to carry them? Oh boy. Poor Snowflake. Hold on.
I'm good. I'll pull it together.
I think we should give him some time.
The reason it's funny is the Snowflake is funny to me because that's what we call folks that are that person in a guild. There's always that snowflake. Snowflakes are all unique and all special, and there's always that one person in every guild who's your special. I know each one of you sitting here, you're like, I know who that is. And the sad thing is, if you don't know who it is, it's probably you. I'm just so you know.
Great, it's me. It's me. It's me. Great.
But the best part is, there's always that person, and I'm not going to talk about this. All I'll say is, there's always that person, and you love them, and you enjoy having them there, and it doesn't matter how good or bad they are. The social part of having them being a part of the organization, to me, doesn't matter. Even in hardcore organizations, you always had that one guy, that guy that got on, or girl. They end up staying anyways because they're just a part of who you are. So they don't get to be on the raid team. They're not going to be on the #1 arena team, But on the weekends, when everyone's hanging out, BS and having beers, you're going to bring them in and take them and do stuff, get them their 1,700 rating that they're going to tell their family about for the next 2 weeks. So that's what I'm going to say.
So in your response to the question, it is yes, but under very select scenarios.
Absolutely.
Okay. What about you, Tasha?
Yes. To be honest, I don't really have this problem because the rating and all the rest of it is not really something that we paid that much attention to. I don't think we actually had a game in this that's had rating really. But there are those odd people. If it's something super serious, you kind of just have to manage it as best you can. Kicking them out of the guild, not going to happen for me as long as they're nice, because of our focus, but it's yeah, to be honest, for me, I agree with what Blank said. There are those personalities with, they cross the line every now and again, but actually you just really enjoy them, and sometimes having people who screw up is actually a really good way to get a lot of community spirit, because everyone laughs about the time that someone did X.
Now, see, I threw out there, it's great to have those individuals around, because I remember it back in my the guild that I ran before I joined the guild I'm in. We had those people so that our various teams could learn how to play better. They supported the guild, and they knew, they're like, I'm not the best player in the world. I know this. And we're like, that's cool. Let's go. Let's hit some heroics up. Let's do this stuff. They're like, but I'm not really good. Just come along and do it. And if we had a tank like that, talk about learning how to DPS and how to heal. If we had a DPSer like that, we had the other DPSers have to pick up the extra slack because we would do timed runs and things like that. And if it was the healer, talk about the tank learning how to mitigate damage and the DPS learning how to do those stuns or to interrupt or do whatever needed to be done. They have a use. I don't want to necessarily say use them to make everybody else better, but they don't have to be left out. If they can acknowledge the fact that they're not the best thing in the world and go, I'm still trying, guys. I'm still trying to work my way through this. I have no problems working with somebody if they can take responsibility for where they're at. But if I've got someone who thinks they are so damn shit smart that they are the best thing since sliced bread, I'm probably going to have them gone before anything else. But, you can work with people, because then you, like you said, Blank, you're bringing them into that A-game scenario, quote unquote, where they're with people who are really like, yes, we're going to do this. Yes, I'm going to do this. Yes, I'm going to do this. And it's, the two learn from proxy by being next to each other, almost like that lovely image that was put up by Dr. Marshmallows. You have that sort of Venn diagramish kind of thing where everybody learns from everybody. And if anybody ever gets to a point in a game where they say, I've learned everything, don't play with me. Because every single time you log in, there is something to learn, something to improve on. Whether you just learned, I press I and that opens my bag. Oh, you've still learned something, But yeah.
One of the things I want to throw in there is when Ed was talking about the interview process, and I wanted to mention this. I've done more interviews than I can imagine. I actually was talking to somebody on Twitter about her interview, which was pretty terrible. She was pregnant and pretty grumpy. It was pretty funny now, looking back. One of the biggest things, if you're looking to build a hardcore organization, that I want to share with you is this. Getting somebody with talent and somebody who has DPS meters or able to show tank stuff, that's cool. What you're really looking for, especially when it comes to carrying your weight, when I talk about big shoulders, I don't talk about the best DPS numbers. What I'm talking about is the guy who can stay alive the longest and do DPS. You're looking for somebody who understands that the team isn't just him, but it's everybody. And these are what I call carriers. You want people with big shoulders who, on the 50th wipe, are looking for they are problem solvers. And they're not the whiners and the bitching about stuff. They are the ones who are like, how do we fix this? Let's do it again. Somebody made a mistake, and they can forgive it. You stood in fire, bro. That messed up the whole raid instead of screaming and yelling, which did used to work back in the day. I mean, there still are some of those environments out there, but they're not really the most productive. The only way that the yelling and screaming works is when you're stuck on a server where there's nowhere else to go, and that's no longer the case. It used to be back in the day. It's not really anymore. So find people with big shoulders They are the ones who are willing to help, willing to work, willing to communicate, and are good under stress. Not the ones who have the biggest DPS numbers in the gear.
And just as a side note as well, those people are exactly the kind of people you want to help you running your guild.
Absolutely.
Just, you know.
That's definitely true. I mean, to add to that, if we're looking at the whole recruitment thing, I mean, one of my biggest things, because we have goals. We have different goals from say Enigma do. So I might not be looking at. I don't generally tend to look at things like world firsts on raid, because that's very hard to manage for. That's hard to pull those sort of metrics, raid metrics for a PvP guild. So what you end up having to do is, what it comes down to is looking at commitment. Is someone who would rather, like you say, help the guild than help themselves. If they're going to be there, knowing that we're playing, say for example, someone knows we're playing Guild Wars 2. Okay, take that. Someone knows we're playing World v World, and someone's willing to help us be the best. I don't know, the best guild that can work around a large-scale Zerg, and they know that sometimes it's going to mean that they're going to have to do the shit job. They're going to have to sit on a fort for 3 or 4 hours, man an arrow cart, just going around in circles, knowing that they're going to get switched out into that role after a few hours, but they're going to have to do it, knowing that someone will work the shit job for the guild, rather than just being, right, I'm up here in front, I'm going to do all the DPS, watch me go. That's the sort of example of commitment and of the type of player that you want to get, is you want to get someone who's willing, like Blank says, to do some of the carrying and do the jobs that you wouldn't necessarily otherwise want to do yourself, because at the end of the day, everyone's got to take that on board eventually.
I agree. And I just want to ask this because this was a question asked in chat now. Robots Hates Me has stated, that big shoulder hardcore raiders are hard to find. I would actually throw out there and posit that, when you get a collection of individuals together, there are going to be natural leaders and followers. Even if the entire group is quote unquote sheep, someone is always going to step up. But I have to ask this question to you guys. Dr. Marshmallow says that the screamers and raids are hilarious to him. And I have to agree, because how many people remember 50 DKP minus many whelps handed them? I mean, it's absolutely hysterical. I am so glad I'm not in that.
The best one I ever heard was someone who yelled at someone who went AFK in the middle of a GVG match, the old Guild Wars 1, and basically screamed at him that he should never leave his computer for any reason, even if his house was being struck by meteor showers. It is. If I can find the sound clip, I will share it with you, because it is the most hilarious thing you will ever hear.
Wow.
I actually had I've actually got someone that I know that's just started a community manager for a major company. It just started playing an MMO on their platform, before they even reached level 12, I linked them the Anixia wipe and just went, if this ever happens, just put down the controller and walk away. But I've completely lost my train of thought now.
Well,
but, hey,
I was going to continue on with the question. It was just, the concept of the screamers is just hysterical, and I kind of agree. But he says it's sad and masochistic pleasure to watch them fail because they lack the social skills to lead. And I think that brings up an interesting point. Do you think screamers...
They don't always fail.
See, that's what I was going to say.
They don't always fail. They do now, because the environment and the technology is different. Back in the days, how do I want to frame this? The high school went and became a police officer because I got beat up in high school and don't know how to deal with the social things around me. D-Bag, who also played World of Warcraft and was a raid leader and screamed at you, he controlled everything because there weren't realm transfers, and if there were, it cost money, and people weren't going to transfer, and this whole idea of getting into a new guild somewhere and reestablishing yourself, that was such a foreign idea years ago. Nowadays, it's like, this guild sucks, I know I'm okay, I'm going to go somewhere else. If somebody doesn't have the social skills and is a good leader, the games themselves have the technology for me to be like, realm transfer, peace, I'm out, I'm joining another organization, I will put on my application that you were a huge D-bag and I'm out. Back in the day, it wasn't a thing, so you had to if you rolled on a server and you didn't know too many people, and you got in and you started playing, you were stuck where you got stuck, especially if you were climbing that ladder of hardcore rating. You were stuck. If these people were successful and the guy on top was like, I don't care, blah, blah, blah. Oh, we should have a day where we just sit and talk about the silly things like that we've experienced. Because I could tell you some raid
Next week?
horror stories. Like, seriously, there was somebody who was like, there's a tornado, and he's like, well, I don't care. If you still your internet's still on, right? And the dude's like, no, but there's like a tornado. I need to go. And the raider's like, you need to stay here right now. And I remember being like, bro, you've got to be kidding. Like, just go. And everyone's like, you're not allowed to. I'm like, I don't care, dude. You're crazy. There's a tornado. I'm out of here. We had a guy whose ex-wife came in and started shooting behind him, and he continued to play for like another minute. He's like, I'm not. I'm staying on my computer. I'm like, what is happening? Oh, my ex-wife's here, shooting in the house.
What?
You probably... He's like, yeah, I probably need to go, and then hung up. Like, this needs to be a thing maybe next week that we sit down, so...
Yeah, maybe that's what we'll do. Maybe what we'll do next week is
I think
discuss
that harks back quite nicely to where do you draw the line?
All of
right there.
However, we also know that Blank has also been in an interview for a guild where they asked him if he would wear adult diapers while leveling.
Dude, there are just some silliness. Yeah. Yep.
So
we're not even going to get into it.
Here's what we're going to do. This is the thing. Next week's show is literally going to have to be all about the silly events or the silly, literally absurd things that have happened in an MMO, regardless of who comes
just
on.
gaming. Just
okay,
gaming.
Just fine. Gaming in general, and get your stories to us so that we can share them with the world. And yes, Aussie is right. I have actually done that. We had an earthquake in the middle of a raid. I pressed onto TeamSpeak, BRB earthquake.
See?
I got up and walked away. And my husband was like, stand under this. And I'm like, the doorway is like, stand here. I'm like, okay. And I went, I just told everybody on TeamSpeak that I'd be right back because of an earthquake. It didn't dawn on me until after I did it. The fact that I had that kind of dedication. Oh my God.
One of my stream viewers was in a tornado watching me on his phone in a bathtub. He was like, hey, I'm still watching you. I'm just chilling in my bathtub because there's a tornado outside. I'm like, bro, please let me know when you're okay. He's like, actually, it's getting really bad. And he like signed off and he came back an hour later. He's like, it's okay. I'm all right. I was like...
But yeah, so send your stories in to us at voice@MMOBuff.TV. Let us know what stories you have to tell, because our 25th episode is literally going to be gaming absurdities.
25. Literally. Wow, we've survived that long.
Yes,
wow.
I know. Isn't it great? So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a quick moment. I'm going to go over what's coming up on MMOBuff, but then we've got some amazing stuff from both Tasha and Screen that we have got to share with you guys. So let me just quickly go through this. Today, as you know, is our Campfire, and Tasha, honestly, seriously, just like the hearts and all the forms that you can make hearts, as I tease poor Blank. But we have tomorrow at 1 p.m. No, not tomorrow. Tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Gosh, I'm getting my days confused. I don't even know what date it is. It's Tuesday, right? Yeah. Tomorrow is the Blizzard forecast. Mr. Blankspace is going to be on it. I'm going to be on it. Dr. Marshmallows, our moderator, is going to be on it. Parv is going to be on it. Trollden is going to be on it. And lucky for you, Mispa's going to be on it as well. It's all about the Blizzard forecast. It's literally all about Heroes of the Storm. It's about Warlords of Draenor. And we are lucky enough to be able to bring you access to what they look like and to discuss them with you while showing them to you. So, hey.
What, blank Dr. Marshmallows and Misfa?
No. Heroes of the Storm.
I'm more interested in fight. Anyway.
Fight! Then on Thursday, we have the data mine. We are narrowing down which one of our mini guests is going to be joining us for the data mine. If you are interested in game development, if you are interested in anything involving game development, from marketing to PR to production to publication, you want to tune in. Last week we had Team 17 on, and believe me, they do more than worms. They actually publish and help support independent developers, and that is something, if you are getting into game development, you want to check out. But again, Not exactly certain which one we have, but Thursday, you're going to want to be there. Friday at 8 p.m., we have our Cosmotronic Wildstar show, which is literally all about Wildstar with Kai Dream, Gazimov, myself, and again, the Mizpa. Saturday, we have Top Draw, where we're doing our final look at Battle for Gia with Dr. Marshmallows and myself as we look into that. Monday, Mizpa and I are back. We may try to rope Screen to coming back on again just because it's really hysterical to debate with him present. If you haven't seen the quick bite from last night, go to YouTube/MMOBuff and check it out. Because honestly, it was hysterical. And I didn't even put in Mizpa's buying a walrus. So you're going to want to check out the full episode as well, because Mizpa bought a walrus and it was hysterical. But then we're back next week. And next week, gaming absurdity. So bring your absurdities.
Oh, man. There's so many. There's so, like, I'm sitting here and I'm like, I have to like catalog these based upon like no one's gonna believe me to kind of to that makes sense. But I'm just sitting here to like some of the crazy stuff that I've experienced since I started gaming 15 years ago. Literally, I'm just like, wow. Now I'm reliving them, sitting here. I'm like, oh my god! Like I remember that. Did that really happen? Like that was crazy. Yep, that happened. Like I gotta write this down for next week.
Yeah, see, I'm all the way back in my mud years. I'm back in my Counter-Strike years. You know, I'm like going through. I'm back in Galaxies, and I'm just sitting there going, wow.
One moment.
Uh-oh. Screen. We'll be back in just a second. While we're waiting for Screen to come back and do the awesome. By the way, isn't his hair stunning?
If you read the chat, anyone who's watching the replay, you just have to guess why I had to take a moment. Everyone else can read the chat and understand why I just had to take a moment there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll leave it at that. However, Tasha, darling,
Yes.
you have brought us, every single time you have come on the show, amazing links to help out communities, to help out people who are interested in learning stuff. You have found, I think, the pinnacle this time around. So far.
That's a bold claim.
It just, I didn't know it existed until you showed it to me.
No.
See, the other ones I was aware of. This is a new one to me. And I'm like, this exists? This is a thing?
Yes. And it's not the only one. Since I found this, I have found more that do similar things as well. So I can't take any credit for finding this on my own. I am a huge Redditor, and I managed to find this somewhere along my travels through Reddit, God knows where. This is a website called Blast Therapy. As you would imagine, it's written Blast Therapy. What it is, it's a website where you can go and talk to complete strangers for free about anything that's on your mind. Likewise, if you're feeling in an altruistic mood, you can set yourself up to be a listener for someone else, and someone else can come and talk to you for however long you're willing to listen, basically. If you want something a little bit more in-depth, there are trained therapists that you can choose from to go and talk to. They do cost money. It's about $25 an hour, but the rates vary depending on the speciality and all the rest of it. There are people from across the world, both therapists and just ordinary folks like you and me, who give up their time to go and sit and basically listen to you talk about whatever. You are anonymous. They are anonymous. If you're a listener, you get given a temporary ID for an hour or a day or something, and after that it's gone. And there's also a big forum there as well where you can talk to people who have suffering from depression, they've got serious anxiety, what have you, people who've been through all the stuff that you may feel that you're going through at the moment, or you know someone who is and you don't really know how to deal with it. They basically have stuff there where you can just you can become part of their community and reach out to other people around the world who just need your help, basically. I found it. I thought it was a fantastic idea, and I'm now kind of going, yeah, this is cool.
It's definitely cool, especially considering we are going to be in one of our upcoming shows tackling bullying in its proper manner. Not just the typical trolling that Screen, Blank, and I do to each other, but actual honest to goodness bullying. We're just waiting to get the right expert on to discuss it because it is such a delicate topic and we will be tackling it. So this is something that is, in my opinion, another piece of awesomeness for the internet and communities in the whole. You're not alone out there, folks. Remember that. Now, Screen.
Mm-hmm.
You.
Grand.
You.
Me?
You.
Who?
You.
Me?
Oh, yes.
All right.
I can't believe that just happened.
It's like we pulled it off quite well. Just like off the cuff.
Okay. Now, one of the things that we do is we discuss charity events. And
Indeed.
And you have something for us this week.
I have a few actually.
Do you have the links to put them into the chat? Because that would be really awesome.
I do have the links to put them into the chat because you know what? I can totally do that, although that's the wrong link, so I will just get the right one right now. So you may, if you've been a long-term viewer of our whole 25 shows, have seen us go ahead and advertise some charity events that have been run in Guild Wars 2. I believe Pink Day in LA was the one that we advertised, and there was also some stuff to do with charity events and Lions Arch for multiple sclerosis. The team that put that together were GWEN, and they are part of Gamers Giving Back Network. And Gamers Giving Back are running some charity events through this weekend. So they're running a number of events, including a Final Fight for Habitat for Humanity, a Mario Marathon, a Marathon Gamers Summer Marathon of Friendship. I'm assuming there'll be some sort of friendship involved there. And Summer Games Done Quick in support of Doctors Without Borders. So there's a number of them coming through this weekend from the 20th to the 22nd. Although I might drop in on Mario Marathon. Too much alliteration in these charity events for my liking. I might drop in on that. But they're all for great causes. They're all for different individual causes. But as we've seen before, Gamers Giving Back, they do great stuff. So drop in this weekend. There's plenty of events to watch, and I'm sure they'll make a ton of money for a number of great causes.
Fingers crossed.
Also, I have another link to put in chat, just at random here. I said yesterday that I would drop
Oh God, yes. Hold on, you got to give context before you just drop a link like that, cause
drop a link. Bam! No, it's yesterday we had a discussion about support in games, and we got into quite an in-depth discussion about technical support structures. And having been a tech support bod, I was reading some stuff just the same day, actually, by coincidence, and read an article on a tech website called Users and Cute Things They Say. So if any of you were watching yesterday, you can go to the register forum and have a look at Users and Cute Things They Say, as well as techs and stupid things they say too.
Yes.
That's completely unrelated to Campfire. I just happened to have the link to hand.
Yes, I was about to say that's great. That is related to our show yesterday with the MMOBuff podcast. We did discuss support, and Blank, I'm going to make you big screen. Your hair is just getting better. Look at you.
Hey. All for the community and charity just gets my hair all excited.
Can you do blue steel?
Whoa! No, I just said no. Just don't. just no.
Blue steel. Excellent. All right. And on that note, that basically leaves me to say, Tasha, again, an absolute dream having you on. An honest to goodness pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me on and putting it on me every single time.
I'm not laughing at you, by the way, Sasha. I'm laughing at Blank because all I thought there when he moved to China, don't do that. You look like Barney out of How I Met Your Mother.
To be honest, the three of you have turned to blurs on my screen again, so it's fine. I don't know what's going on. There's some connection issue here, and everyone's been blurred for most of the thing. It's cool. Thank you very much for having me on.
Oh, our pleasure.
No, thank you for coming on.
And Blank, thank you.
Oh, nothing fills my Tuesdays up better than being here, hanging out, talking about community stuff with one of my favorite trolls and two amazingly intelligent, gorgeous ladies. So I really am the blessed one here.
I am not. Oh wait, no. Oh.
I was just about to say. You only said 2. I thought there were 3 ladies here. But
I was trying to be nice.
I know. And
My brain couldn't cope.
You're so used to being trolled. Someone being nice to you just really makes you hiccup, huh?
I've been dealing with Aiko all day.
Oh.
Oh, wow. Right. And Screen, it leaves me to also thank you as well.
No, thank you.
Ah.
There's no comma, thank you, not no thank you, because that would be rude. Silent punctuation for the win.
Commas, Oxford commas. Important people, use them. Don't abuse them, but use them. That's all I'm going to say on that. And this also leaves me to say a very special thank you to, again, Nantari. Welcome to the team, my dear. Thank you so much for stepping up to the plate to help ensure that our chat is amazing during the campfire, as well as for the amazing scenarios. I think I have 8 from her for the upcoming weeks coming. Remember, though, if you guys out there have a scenario or something going on you want us to give an opinion on or to tackle from multiple angles, hit us up. I would love to make Blankspace roleplay again. And
Never happened.
I'm just getting by tackling from multiple angles, to be quite honest, because as soon as you said that, my mind was like, here's the gar, gone.
And there you go. But on that note, it also leaves me to thank our various moderators and everyone who has shown up. You guys are amazing. Remember, the best way to support us is to spread the word about us. Let people know that we're here. We, I think, are one of the very few shows out there that really tackles community issues in a very, very wide spectrum. But we don't bullshit about it. We're trying to be as blunt as possible because there's no gray area. But if you take some of the things that we've been through and the experiences that we have been through on board, it hopefully can help make the community a much, much stronger place. So remember, spread the word about us if you love us. And also, don't forget, we're on YouTube, guys. Go forth and like us and watch us and stuff because it helps us out. It really, really does. And then, of course, you've got us on Twitter, Anouk. You've got us on Facebook. You've got us all over the place. And I don't know why I'm doing a little dance about Anouk, but, I'm doing the Anouk dance. Apparently there's an Anouk. I need to stop. Right.
Oh, God. You and Mizpah, the trains, we might troll, but the goofiness from you and Mizpah, it starts and it's like, nah, oh, it's up its tracks, oh no.
I try to stay focused. Hey, I like to think that I at least help out a little bit. But yes, awkward. To quote Evanleaf. Hi. Yes, and finally, for those of you who wish to take us that extra mile, you can help us out by actually subscribing to us. But on that note, thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much.
Make sure to
Thanks,
take us the
everyone.
extra mile. Bye, guys.
It's I'm not going to force anyone.
We're done. We're done. Cut it. Bye.
Guys.
Toodle pip.